Yo, hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Black Canary, Oracle, Birds of Prey! Or, depending on what trade you get, Black Canary, Oracle, Huntress, Birds of Prey! Take a look at this comic cover right here. Now, as you may have noticed, there's actually two trades out there for this particular story arc. And there's really no difference to the two trades. They have the exact same story, the exact same contents, the exact same material, the exact same price. The only difference is in the title, it says Black Canary, Oracle, Huntress, Birds of Prey with a different cover. This one just says Black Canary, Oracle, Birds of Prey with this cover. Doesn't matter which one you get. No, because they're the exact same thing. So, knock yourself out. So with that said, let's get into Birds of Prey. Now see, Birds of Prey is a comic that I've always been interested in and always wanted to pick up, for several different reasons. First one being that, well, the characters are so interesting, and characters that I really like. I've had exposure to these characters in previous comics. With Oracle, I've had exposure to her in her Batgirl comics, in Batman, and in Nightwing. And with Huntress, I have had exposure to her in the Batman comics and some of her own comics. And lastly, Black Canary, the most of exposure I've had from her is in JLA, or Justice League of America, you know, the original series. But I never really had a full exposure to them in their own comics. At least not in modern continuity-wise, because the old Batgirl issues with Barbara Gordon is back in the Silver Age. So I always kind of wanted to read their team and see how they would interact. The second thing that makes this team in comics so interesting is the actual concept. You have this information network that is Oracle, and then you have these field agents that she feeds information to constantly 24/7. It's really kind of cool, very spy-like, and very task force-y-ish, if that's even a word. They're like a task force, and it's really quite cool. And a cool concept, and a concept that I really was interested in reading. Last reason why I really wanted to get in this book is it has a consistently good team of writers. Chuck Dixon starts off the series, which he writes this particular trade, and then it jumps into Gail Simone, who has dominant control of the series, even to now with the revitalization of the comic. So as you can see, there's a lot going for this comic that I really wanted to go and read and experience. And when I went to Boston Comic Con, I promised myself that I would pick up a new comic. The top contenders were Secret Six, Suicide Squad, whatever you want to call them, and Birds of Prey. And I'm sorry, Bane, Deadshot, and Catman, but Birds of Prey won over you guys, and I picked up a good amount of Birds of Prey trades. So the question is this. A lot of high expectations have been set for the Birds of Prey comic. I've heard nothing but good from fans and critics and other reviewers about this particular series. But, is it really as good as everyone says? See, I do have high expectations. There's something I don't like doing. I don't like going into comic with any kind of expectations, whether they're high or low. Why? Because I want to experience things firsthand my way. I don't want to have anyone's opinions contaminating my own. So, with my expectations set high on this Birds of Prey comic, will it live up to it, or will it fall flat? Well, you're just going to have to wait and see. Let's get into the story itself. The story starts off with Black Canary doing what Black Canary does best. Beat the shit out of people. Now, see, Black Canary is one of the top-tier contenders of martial artists in the DC Universe. Not particularly at this point, but eventually she becomes one of the best there is in martial arts. And as you guys may not know, I am a martial artist. I am a 4th degree black belt, and I love martial arts. And Black Canary instantly just hooked me with that. Just going around and kicking everyone's ass. And as I said, she is a top-tier fighter in the DC Universe. I would put her on the level of like Cassandra Cain, Dick Grayson. Although a lot of people like to put her and Cassandra Cain a little higher, I usually keep the #1 spot for Richard Dragon, Lady Shiva, and Batman. But she is definitely very close to them. She's a complete badass, and she is good at what she does. But anyways, Black Canary is driving around and beating up people. But see, she has no direction in life. you gotta understand, things aren't going good for Black Canary. One is her boyfriend, Green Arrow, died, so she's out on her own. Don't worry, he comes back to life. Everyone comes back to life. Except for Bruce Wayne's parents and Superman's parents. Okay, scrap that. Every superhero comes back to life. Anyways, so her boyfriend's dead. She's not part of a team like the Justice League or the Justice Society. And she has no direction in life. That is until Oracle pops in. Oracle, Barbara Gordon, the first Batgirl, has a mission for Black Canary. And it's a mission only Black Canary can do. And Black Canary accepts. And thus starts their partnership, whirlwind adventure, going out and doing miscellaneous deeds to help the helpless, to save the innocent, to protect the weak. And what are these stories? Well, one is that they stop a individual from blackmailing third world countries. They stop a slavery ring. They stop a workhouse. And they team up with Catwoman and Huntress to take on this new villain who happens to be in cahoots with none other than, yep, Lady Shiva. However, despite how good they are at what they do, Oracle being an information network, and Black Canary being a bona fide kick-assing badass, will they really work well together? Will there be synergy? Or will the two butt heads and in the end, the team just not work out? Well, you're just going to have to read and see. On to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good. Well, let's start things off with writings and characterizations. Chuck Dixon. Oh, you guys know how much I love Chuck Dixon. His run with Batman during the 90s was epic. And all the Batman titles that came from it, Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, they were all beautiful and all good. And see, the thing about Chuck Dixon is that he does a fantastic job writing female characters at a time where female characters weren't written all that well. See, in the 90s, let's be honest, female characters were more or less eye candy for the male readers. It's a travesty, it is. Trust me. But that is the case. That is what it was like. Even characters like Wonder Woman were used as eye candy for male readers. But what I like about Chuck Dixon is that he treated female characters with the respect that they deserved in a time when they didn't get that respect. Every character in this, Black Canary, Oracle, Huntress, Catwoman, Lady Shiva, are all characters that are intelligent, strong, decisive, adaptive, and they're just downright badass. And, well, Chuck Dixon just does a fantastic job at doing this. You really get a sense of these characters, who they are, their motivations, their personalities. Right away, he really does a good job at molding them in the direction that will take them to great heights as comic book characters. And these are especially characters that aren't used all too much. As popular as they are, Black Canary has been more or less a background character. In the JLA comics, she was kind of more or less in the background. With Green Arrow, she was a secondary character. Barbara Gordon has been nothing but a secondary character, with the exception of her Silver Age run, but we're not counting that right now. And Huntress has always been kind of popping in and out here and there. So it's good to see him actually formulate these characters and mold them into what will be a great comic book team. The writing and the stories are great in this. I like how Chuck Dixon does very worldly international stories, for lack of a better term, and that not all the stories actually take place in Gotham. Some will take place in a third world country, some will take place in Metropolis, some will take place on the moon, some will take place in Italy, some will take place in the Mushroom Kingdom, or Hyrule. It doesn't matter. He goes about different places in the world, and it's really quite cool that he can give kind of a worldly, international sense to his characters. He does this with the Batman titles sometimes, like Batman Contagion and Legacy was a journey around the world to basically stop Ra's al Ghul. Or Robin Hero Reborn didn't even take place in Gotham, it went about into Europe. So I like how Chuck Dixon can kind of branch out and not be anchored down by the particular city that they're based in. Coup de grace. The art in this is good too. I do like the art, with the exception of Black Canary's hair. Take a look at this. it kind of makes her look like a boy. Or at least it does in the comic itself. The reason why Black Canary's hair looks the way it does is some of you guys may not know, but early in her career, Black Canary would actually wear a blonde wig and she had black hair underneath. In this comic, she takes off the wig, she dyes her black hair blonde, so she's actually now really blonde, and she's just letting it grow out. So the art in this is good. Bad. Well, mind you, there are bad. One is you can really tell that this comic is trying to get its footing in its direction. So there's really no overwhelming great story in this other than the fact that it's just good stories. It has no overall story arc. It has no real direction to it. You can really tell that they're trying to get their footing. You can see that they threw Huntress in there with with Catwoman to kind of see who would be on the team. Could we do a Birds of Prey team with Catwoman on it? Could we do it with Huntress on it? You can really see that they were trying to get their footing. And although the stories were well written and good, you can see that they were just good. They weren't fantastic. They weren't marvelous. They weren't the level of writing that Chuck Dixon would do. At least the story-wise. But, besides that, there's not real much bad to this. This is a great introduction to the Birds of Prey comics if you haven't read Birds of Prey or know anything about them. It introduces the characters nicely, it gives you their motivations, their background, and their history, and it doesn't take too much time to dilly-daddle around. They get right into the mix of things. It's about 2 or 3 pages with Oracle and Black Canary talking to each other, and they go right into action. In addition to that, the relationships between everyone works out so nicely, particularly Black Canary and Oracle. These two are completely different individuals. Oracle is very orderly and is more calm and collective and logical, where Black Canary is a little bit more rambunctious, rebellious, and emotional. It's all good. It all works out, and it's nicely done. Do I recommend picking it up? Yes. But more or less, if you're going to get into Birds of Prey, if you really want to invest in the comic book series, in the team. Like I said, this is a good introduction into the team. It's a good way to get to know everyone before you jump into, like, Gal Simone's run with like minds, or of like minds. So, do recommend picking it up. Mind you, it is $17.95, so it's going to $18. So it is going to cost you a little bit of money. But it is worth it because you get a good 6 or 7 issues from it. It's not a small trade. As you can see there, it's pretty thick and it has a lot of material to go with it. Rarity, I've seen this at a few comic book stores. My comic book store had both versions of the trade, and I think it's pretty common in most comic book stores. You're not going to find it at Newbury Comics or at some random Barnes & Noble. If you can't find it at your comic book store, go online. You can get it cheap up on there. I recommend Amazon particularly. So with that said, I'm going to end this review here. Black Canary, Oracle, Birds of Prey was a great story, and it really did get me excited for the Birds of Prey comic. So, I am going to be reviewing more Birds of Prey in the weeks to come, so be prepared for these lovely ladies. And with that said, this is Andrew saying, peace out for now.